Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aisha and you're watching SAMAA News. Here are today's headlines. President Donald Trump has said that Iran will allow long-term weapons inspections to ensure what he called nuclear honesty, reinforcing remarks by Vice President J.D. Vance after talks in Switzerland. Vance said Tehran had agreed to permit inspectors and create mechanisms for managing frozen assets and ceasefires as negotiations toward a broader agreement continue. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian will arrive in Pakistan on Tuesday for an official visit aimed at strengthening bilateral ties and discussing regional developments. According to the Foreign Office, talks will focus on cooperation in trade, energy, security, and connectivity, as well as follow-up diplomacy after the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to visit the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait and Bahrain this week as Washington seeks to reassure Gulf allies over its preliminary agreement with Iran. Rubio is also expected to meet Gulf Cooperation Council leaders to discuss the Iran Accord, regional security and efforts to ensure safe navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has announced funeral arrangements for former Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, who was martyred during US and Israeli strikes earlier this year. The ceremonies will begin in Tehran in the first week of July and conclude with his burial in the northeastern city of Mashhad on July 9th. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has praised Pakistan and Qatar's diplomatic efforts, saying their mediation has led to major progress in efforts to end the Lebanon conflict. In a post on X, Araghchi said sustained mediation by both countries helped achieve significant breakthroughs during recent US-Iran talks in Switzerland, including steps on sanctions relief sets and easing of blockade-related restrictions. He said the process also includes plans for a reconstruction and development framework, while warning that implementation of the Lebanon de-confliction mechanism will be the key test of the agreement's success. Earlier, Iran's foreign ministry said tensions briefly stalled talks following a threatening statement from US President Donald Trump, but dialogue was restored with continued efforts by Pakistan and Qatar. Global oil prices declined after US-Iran talks concluded in Switzerland, easing concerns over supply disruptions and geopolitical tensions. Brent crude fell $1.53, or 1.90%, to $79.04 per barrel, after briefly touching $82.30 earlier in the session. US West Texas Intermediate, WTI, also eased to $76.53 per barrel ahead of contract expiry. Markets reacted to signals of improved supply prospects, including reported export waivers for Iran and expectations of higher output from other producers. Analysts said the talks reduced immediate fears over disruptions in key shipping routes, such as the Strait of Hormuz, though long-term uncertainty remains. At least 13 people have been killed and 66 others injured after an explosion at Qatar's Ras Laffan industrial complex, the country's main LNG processing hub. Energy Minister Saad Al-Kaabi said authorities are investigating the incident and assessing its impact on operations.
Authorities say the incident occurred at the Barzan gas supply facility during a technical restart process with no immediate threat to public safety. However, the blast was strong enough to rattle windows and shake buildings in parts of Doha, located more than 70 kilometers away.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced his resignation after acknowledging that the Labour Party no longer sees him as the right leader for the next general election. In a televised statement outside 10 Downing Street, Starmer said he had informed King Charles and would step down with good grace, triggering a Labour leadership contest. He defended his government's record on the economy, wages, infrastructure, and public services, but said growing internal dissatisfaction had weakened his position. Labour's National Executive Committee will now set the timetable for a leadership race expected to begin in July, with MPs and party members voting to choose his successor. Starmer will remain in office until a new leader is elected and is expected to be invited to form the next government if Labour retains its majority. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Iran will never acquire nuclear weapons for as long as I am Prime Minister. Speaking at the JNS Policy Summit in Jerusalem, he said Israel and the United States often see eye to eye, but remain independent states with their own interests. Netanyahu stressed that Israel will continue acting to protect its security, including ongoing military operations and security zones in Gaza, Syria, and Lebanon. The Israeli leader also said Israel has changed its security doctrine to allow preemptive strikes against threats, while reaffirming that efforts to prevent Iran's nuclear program will continue regardless of diplomatic talks. Meanwhile, Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has said that the group will respond to any Israeli violation of the ceasefire and insisted that Israel will not remain in Lebanon. His remarks come as Israeli officials maintain their forces can continue operations against perceived threats, despite the truce that took effect on Friday. Right-wing candidate Abelardo de la Espriella, endorsed by Donald Trump, has narrowly won Colombia's presidential election, according to initial vote counts, marking a major political shift in the country. With over 99% of votes counted, de la Espriella led left-wing rival Iván Cepeda by a slim margin of about 49.7% to 48.7%. Cepeda has not conceded, saying the results are not yet official. De la Espriella, a political outsider and lawyer, pledged a hardline crackdown on armed groups, drug trafficking and crime, calling his win the start of a new stage for Colombia. Trump welcomed the result, writing on Truth Social, "He won big." And Argentina captain Lionel Messi has become the all-time leading scorer in men's World Cup history, netting his 17th tournament goal against Austria. The strike moved Messi past Germany's Miroslav Klose and helped put Argentina in front as the defending champions pushed for a place in the knockout stage.
That's all for now. For more updates, visit www.samaa.tv. Thank you for watching SAMAA News.